Okay, let's make sure we're live, and I think we are set. All right. Hey, this is Chris, and welcome back to part 3 of Take Apart Live with the Ego 56-volt battery. You can go back to parts 1 and 2, where we took the case off. In fact, I've got that right here. So we took the outer case off in part 1. In part 2, we dug further into the battery itself. And now in part 3, we're going to get our soldering iron out and start to take some of these wires off and get these cells separated so we can finally get each cell separated for use in some projects. In part 2, one of the moments is when we were sort of taking apart these end caps and getting further into the battery, and I wanted to show what this circuit board looks like a little bit. I peeled this off in the meantime, and then we're going to take our soldering iron and get some of these wires removed and get these cages separated. So I'm going to switch to the overhead cam here. Thank you for joining us, and let's make sure. And there we go. Okay, so as you can see on the overhead cam real quick, I wanted to show you. This is the circuit board that is part of the battery system. This is what the things plug in. And as you can see, there's a ton of circuits on here, integrated circuits, transistors, capacitors, etc. This is sort of what controls the whole battery system when you plug it into the charger, when you plug it into the actual tool. And this is, of course, covered in this rubber substance. And so we used our plastic spudger, and we dug all of that out. And so we can just get kind of a interesting view of what's in there. And again, that's essentially what's gone wrong with this battery is something on this circuit board has gone wrong, whether it's a transistor, capacitor, whatever it is. And the battery no longer is charging like it should. So as you can see, the button is part of this. I think I had screwed it back in. So anyways, that's what this looks like. I just wanted to show you. It's, I'm going to set that over here. Okay. And so when we left off, what we have here is the battery full of its cells. There are 14 cells. There are 2 cages here. We can separate this. So there's 2 sets of 7. And as you can see, there's a series of wires going to all the cells and to this charging connector right here. So what I want to do is I heated up my soldering iron, and I want to start to remove some of these, in fact all of these wires, and remove these cages from each other. So you can see they're connected here as well, so that we can finally dig into the batteries and get these cells completely apart. We're going to see underneath this tape, the cells are actually connected by welded contacts. So we're going to have to take some pliers and sort of rip those off in our final section, which would be part 4. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that we get a soldering iron and we get it heated up as high as it can go. I just have this on max because we're not doing any soldering. We're actually doing desoldering, right? So we want to get these wires off and unsolder these so we can get everything separated. Okay, so let's start. I have this on max, and obviously as a disclaimer, this is all very high voltage. You want to make sure at all times to be very careful not to touch metal contacts with your hands. You don't want to bridge any contacts. You don't want to create any closed circuits with your body and zap yourself. So at all times we're going to be making sure not to touch anything metal with our fingers. And when we are touching metal with the soldering iron, to be very careful. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. So what I want to do first is I want to remove this black wire right here. Where's the best view? So as you can see, this battery connector is 2 very thick gauge wires connected to each cage. And so I'm going to remove the negative first, the black, and then the positive, the red. And so we can get this battery connector completely removed. So I'm going to take the tip of my soldering iron and put it on this soldered joint down here. Alright, and let that heat up. Okay. Well, we are on max. So let's get a better look at this solder joint up here. Okay, I see it's starting to heat up. I can really feel it through the wire. I'm going to take my pliers here so I can just hold on to this and keep melting this. Wow. Perhaps this is not just your average solder. Perhaps this is super high-end sort of welded solder. Oh no, here we go. Okay, here we go. It's perhaps my soldering iron just needed a second. Okay, there we go. Sorry it took a second. You can see a little bit of the fumes there. My soldering iron, I had it turned on before we started, but it might have needed just a second to get all the way up to max temp. So the black is off. Again, let's be very careful not to let this touch anything. We're going to flip this over here to the side, and we are now going to work on this red wire. So again, we should be able to just hold that right on here to where the solder makes contact. There we go. And just heat that right up. I mean, they loaded the solder on here. There we go. Let's try to get it. There we go. Okay. So we have now removed the battery connector. This, of course, positive, negative, and then also had temperature and data. And that's what the rest of these wires are that we see down here. You're going to notice that each set of these wires goes into some of the cells. And in fact, right here and right here are some temperature sensors. And what all of this does is, again, is part of this battery management system, which is essentially telling it how hot it is, whether to speed up or slow down the charging, what cells need balanced with each other, etc. Okay, so now what we're going to do with our soldering iron is come through and unsolder each one of these wires, and then finally desolder the cradle from each other. All right, so let's just start with the easy ones. Right here, this black one. Now again, if you wanted to just take wire cutters and cut all these, you could probably just do that too. In fact, this is... There we go. There's the black one. There's this white one. Let's flip over here and do these. You can see there's little plastic clips. In fact, what we might do with our pliers is go through and kind of unclip some of these, because they're in there pretty tight. Okay. There we go. Just want to loosen those up, make it a little easier for us as we're sort of trying to desolder these. Okay. So now let's get this white one here. Let's get this blue one here. Okay. Now let's flip over here and get this brown one. Okay. may make it easier on ourselves to do some of these up here. Give us a little slack. So let's get rid of this yellow one. Oh, I thought I had it there. There we go. Oops. Okay. And then we have a little clip right here. So I'm going to take my pliers, pop that clip open, get this wiring cradle out, and there we go. Let's also get that wiring cable out, and there we go. And let's get this wiring clip out as well, and there we go. Okay. That leaves us with this green one here. Let's get this guy. Bye-bye. Okay, last one over there is that temperature sensor. We can undo all these from the clips. And then this brown one clipped in. This is incredibly well organized. This is very well built, as you can see. Now again, this is generation 1 of the ARC battery. I know this because I have another ARC battery that has a different button layout. So they've clearly been through a few different versions of this battery, and this is the very first one as far as I know, because I got this pretty much as soon as it came out. Alright, we got those. We got just a couple more here. Let's unclip all of these. We are running low on time, so let's finish this up quick. Let's get this red one. Okay, let's get this green one. Now I'm just doing this because I have a lot of projects where I could use these wires or these wiring harnesses. If you just want to go through, like I said, with a wire cutter and cut all these, it might be a little faster. Okay, so looks like we got all of them except these two right here. And again, these you can just rip off. This is glue. And what you'll see under here, put that on the close-up cam, this is the temperature sensor. So this is feeding temperature data back to the computer. And again, I'm just going to pull. This is just essentially tan colored hot glue. So you can just pull really tight. And there is the other temperature sensor. So again, I can use this on another project. So that's why I kind of wanted to take a little care while doing it. The final thing we need to do is separate these cradles from each other. And then you can join us in part 4 as we separate the batteries from each other completely. Okay, and I'm just gonna heat this up as I pull these two apart. It was very stubbornly in there. Let's heat that up really good. There we go. Okay. So cradle 1, we will set here. Move this wiring harness over here. The final step is this final black wire. So let's desolder that guy, and we will be done. And there we have it. Soldered iron back in its holster. I'm going to put the wiring harness over here for a future project. Clean up all this little junk. And there we have it, the 2 separate battery cradles. So join us for part 4. What we're going to see is, as we remove this tape, there are a number of metal contacts and these are welded on. So we're going to really have to wrench these off to get these cells finally separated, but we are almost there. So let's switch back to the overhead cam. Thank you for joining me again for Take Apart Live. This is the 56 volt Ego battery. We are almost there. We're down to part 4 where we're going to remove these cells. So join us next time. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know if you have any questions or comments down below, and I will see you later. Thank you. All right.